Life comes with a lot of decisions, and it can be hard to know the right path sometimes. A therapist can help you map out what you really want, so you trust yourself to make great choices and feel excited about the future. BetterHelp offers convenient professional online therapy on your schedule, however you want it, by phone, chat, or video call. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/positive today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/positive.
You need on-the-go convenience. Novec Smart Hub delivers. Pay your electric bills, view your energy use, report an outage, and receive alerts regarding your account. With Smart Hub, use your credit card with no processing fees. Level out your monthly electric bills by enrolling in budget billing through Smart Hub. Easily access it through Novec's mobile app or at Novec.com. You're on the go. Novec Smart Hub goes with you.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Congratulations to Andre for winning those Win Surge tickets, courtesy of us here at Sports Daily. All right, some win totals here. Let's talk about this. So, just kind of been browsing on some of the futures markets here as we have time on our hands, waiting for games to kick in and camps to stick in and all these kinds of things. Kansas is at 5.5 wins at BetMGM. K-State's at 7.5. Now, the Kansas over last year in this part of the world had to be the most popular bet of all time. Like, everybody on the planet was hammering Kansas's over last year just because of the schedule as much as anything, Tommy. So let's look at the schedule this year. 5.5 seems low to me. It's juiced down to 150. But let's just look at it here. So you got to get to 6 wins. Missouri State is a win, right? There's one. Illinois feels like a win to me, but not, rock solid. So let's call it 1.5. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fine.
Nevada, if you're
should be a win.
Should be a win. So we can call that 2.5. It may be closer to a half win to 2. BYU at home. BYU, by all accounts, is going to be down next year. They're picked ahead of them. I think you can call that a win in the opener. So there's 3 or 3.5. Texas, I think we can say no. UCF at home is real dang interesting because they were picked the highest. They have Gus Malzahn, and by all accounts, the talent there is the best of that group that's coming in. But it's a home game, Tommy. And I think at worst you call it like a coin flip. So let's call it another half win, and then that would put us where? At 3 or 4? 1, 1.5, 2.5, 3. That put us at 4, okay, with UCF. At Oklahoma State, I still don't think you count on that, right? Going to Stillwater. Then you've got a home game against Oklahoma. I think for a betting purpose, let's not count that. Let's not count that for a betting purpose. It's homecoming. I think there's a great chance. Maybe it's a half. Let's call it a half, right? So we're at 4.5. Iowa State on the road. I don't think you ever bet Iowa State on the road. I think we leave it at 4.5 with Iowa State. Texas Tech at home. Okay. That's a really interesting one. I think it's maybe another half at best. So that puts us at 5, right? Kansas State would be a no, even at home. And Cincinnati, even on the road, I think would be a yes. So there's 6 if you're going by half games on coin flip games, which is right at the over. It's an odd thing. It just sort of depends on how good actually, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are. That's why it's difficult to do this. But that's also why that number's where it is. I mean, just looking at the schedule and being as fair as we can possibly be, it's around 6, which is just barely over. So, that tells you that the range, probably of 7 to 5 is realistic.
Yeah, I think so too. And those coin flips, I think, are fair and valid. I think that while I wouldn't bet Kansas on the road in Ames at Iowa State, I think it's certainly a winnable game. And that could be, I think totally one that you look at for sure, because Iowa State, I think, is going to be down this year. But it is tough because you're on the road. And then of course Oklahoma State was picked, somewhere right around Kansas in the preseason polls by the media. So again, you're on the road at Stillwater. That one's tough also. It's going to be essential, and it was this way last year too, essential for Kansas to win their non-conference games, right? You got to win. You got to win all of them in non-conference. Illinois, I think, is going to be the question mark. They were an improved program last year. They're at home, or the game is in Lawrence, so Kansas is at home for that game. But it's not, outside of Missouri State, a cupcake walk in the park non-conference schedule.
It's not. I do like that game coming like early in the year when maybe you can catch a team on its heels a little bit. Like, I think Kansas will come out grooving offensively. So as other teams might need a minute to find a groove offensively, I do like playing Illinois in a team like that early rather than late, probably. And look, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Kansas's schedule is tough, but it's at least advantageous in that the really tough games all come in Lawrence. So, home field advantage has to play a factor there. Their schedule is tough, but almost all the tough ones come on the road. That also means it makes it more likely you win those road games in the league, which is good for win totals, right? That's an interesting one. Okay, so they're at 5.5. It's certainly not like it was last year where it's just like, oh my goodness, just hammer that. There's a scenario where you could see it going under based on the schedule. Let's go to K-State. 7.5. This is juiced down even more. SEMO is a win. Troy is a win. There's 2. I think at Missouri is a win. There's 3. I think UCF at home is a win. There's 4. At Oklahoma State, again, I wouldn't count them out so quickly. But, I mean, for Kansas State, let's call it a half, I guess. 4.5 at Texas Tech is probably let's not count on that.
I'd say a half on that one, too.
A half at best. Okay, so then we're at 5. Home against TCU, they lost a ton of players. I would say yes, 6. Home against Houston is 7. So we're already there. Then they would just have to find a win at Texas, at home against Baylor, at Kansas, at home against Iowa State. Like, I think hammering the Kansas State over 7.5 makes a lot of sense because I think they're probably going way over that, Tommy.
Yeah, I think so too. Just the way that their schedule plays out on the front end of the schedule, like we just went through, I think that they can get to that win total and still have several games to go in their overall schedule. I know there are a couple of road games that I think would give you just slight pause because they're on the road. But, man, I think that it's a very favorable schedule for Kansas State.
I do too. I think that, I think it is an incredible opportunity there. And if you're on the betting sites and any of them offer up like a boost to a bet or something and you can get that minus 165 closer to even money, I like it a lot. And futures bets are hard for me because I'm very, 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 very impatient. Like I don't like waiting on them is difficult for me to do. So it's always hard anyway. I'm definitely more of a, whatever, bet what's out there right now. But that's one I like quite a bit as we look at that. I told you, I like the field against Oklahoma State and Texas at plus money. I like that a lot too. I don't, and that's not a knock on Oklahoma and Texas. Have you watched the Big 12 like ever? Giving somebody the field against a team or two when they have to play, by the way, they got to play a conference championship game where anything can happen. Texas could go undefeated in the Big 12 regular season. The next closest team has, 3-4 losses, and they still would have to win and win a conference championship game. So that's another one I really like, is taking the field against Texas or Oklahoma, but it brings up the conversation, Tommy, about Texas, who is a pretty heavy favorite here. That surprises me some that there is heavily favored and as because the voting didn't even really go that way, right? It did by first place votes. They had a pretty healthy number, but by total points, like I just don't. I guess I don't see them in a league like this as that big a favorite.
I go back and forth on that. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to know kind of what your. Like how you draw that conclusion, because I feel like I'm kind of on the fence with that.
Because I think, one, the league is too good and unpredictable, right? I think you've got to take a track record into the equation, too. Like, Texas still, even last year, right? Like, Texas is, they have letdown games all the time. Let me ask you this question, and maybe it should start right here. Who's Texas's starting quarterback?
It's Arch Manning. Right?
No, it's Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers won that
Ewers?
battle. Like, how much confidence do you have there out of the gate?
Yeah.
Right? And I know they're talented, but man, they're always talented. Always. And what does that talent turn into? I'm not saying that I don't think they're the favorite to win the league. I think it's very, very close between them and Kansas State. I think Kansas State has far more you can hang your hat on. I think Texas has a chance to just have insane. But Texas lost Bijan Robinson, which is basically their entire offense, right? Like, they have to still replace him too. Yeah, Kansas State lost Deuce Vaughn. But you could easily make the case that Bijan Robinson was just as important to Texas's offense as Deuce Vaughn was to K-State's.
I think, I get that for sure, and I understand that. I wonder, though, how much you lean on just the expertise of Steve Sarkisian. And he's had a little bit of time now in that program to build it the way that he wants, right? And we talked about it the other day about how there's always these expectations on that program. And it seems like now going into this season, the expectations are greater than they've been in quite a while with the Longhorns. I think you lean on just the veteran presence that team has for the most part, and their head coach. Again, I'm not willing at this point to say that I think that they are going to win the Big 12. I think that Kansas State has just as good of a chance as any other team in the conference to do so. But I'm trying to find what the pundits or because it's the media poll, right? What the media thinks and sees in Texas to put them at the top. And I wonder if it's just because they're Texas, the benefit of the doubt. But I do like Kansas State's schedule.
I do too. I don't remember, like, we looked at it, and the one thing that's tough about it is the toughest games that Kansas State plays come on the road. So that's sort of the difference. Like, their totality of games probably looks a little better than Kansas's, but Kansas gets all the tough ones at home. Kansas State gets all the tough ones on the road. And that's the hard part here. Now, I do think, though, Kansas State is built to win on the road, right? Because if Kansas State's season goes as it has it planned, how's that going to go, Tommy? They're going to play good defense. They're going to control the lines. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to make explosive plays. Controlling the lines translates anywhere you go. And they return their entire offensive line. I don't think there's going to be a better offensive line in the league. They lose Felix Anudike-Uzomah, and that becomes, to me, the biggest question on this team. I think the replacement of him is probably more difficult to imagine than the replacement of Deuce Vaughn, because we know that there's some people in that backfield, and they brought in some guys that are talented with that line that you feel pretty good about it, right? Like, you feel okay about what production will come from the backfield based on as much on the offensive line as the guys standing in that room. But on the defensive side of the ball, when you lose one of the better pass rushers in college football and one of the best you've ever had at your university, that now becomes the part that, for me, is going to be pretty critical. Yeah,
and look, there are massive pieces, especially defensively for Kansas State that they don't have anymore in Anudike-Uzomah and Julius Brents. And we discussed it earlier this week that they're going to have some of the younger guys step up, and Kobe Savage is one of those guys that we saw flashes of last season. And he needs to take that leadership role on the defense for sure. And there are others without a doubt, but that really, I remember last season, there were a number of games that it was sort of watching a Jekyll and Hyde defensive unit. Like, sometimes they were outstanding, like lockdown defense. Then there were other times that you're like, what is going on defensively with Kansas State? So I'm looking for consistency defensively for this team this season. That's going to be difficult to do, considering that, their top players are not going to be playing in the NFL.
I cannot wait, man. K-State's talk. We're going to get a recap of sort of what the vibe is from K-State as we make our way through. Tim Fitzgerald joins us at the top of the hour, so we'll do that. It's Big 12 football media days. That's where we're spending the majority of our time today because why not, right? Like we're almost through this slowest week on the sports calendar. Hang with us. Next week we got TBT. Right after that we got training camp. It's all, put rocket boosters on things after this week, but thank goodness Big 12 Media Days because there have been a lot of interesting things. We'll continue those conversations as we make our way through. It's all Brockton Caster at Sports Daily. The IHOP hotline is open, 869-1240. We'll come back with more right after this.
Baseball is in full swing. The free Odyssey app lets you listen to local coverage for the team you love, live stream your favorite sports radio station, or jump back and listen to the best segments on demand.
Don't forget we talk to the manager every Tuesday at 2 p.m.
Don't listen to some guy from the other side of the country tell you about your team. Live conversations for your local team, no matter where you are. Your season, your Odyssey. Get in the game and download the free Odyssey app today.
So, we've got a number 1 deluxe meal. Is there anything else I can get you?
Yeah, I'd also like a good night's sleep.
Excuse me, sir?
You know, the I didn't struggle all night with my uncomfortable CPAP mask, or something like the my wife didn't kick me out to sleep on the couch because of my constant tossing and turning.
Sir, we don't have anything like that here. I think what you're looking for is Inspire. It's an implant that works inside your body to treat sleep apnea without a CPAP. That way you can breathe normally and rest more soundly.
Come on! Oh, he sounds angry. Inspire is the only FDA-approved sleep apnea treatment of its kind. It's helping tens of thousands of people finally get restful sleep. To learn more, visit InspireSleep.com. That's InspireSleep.com. Inspire, sleep apnea innovation. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.